Today I'm going to talk to you about Asana rule building. Consider this to be your rule building 101 session. So here we have a project. I should note that anytime you see the lightning bolt here, it means that there is a rule that's being applied to that section. For this example, I've paused all of our rules. There were some pre-built ones here. I've paused all of them, and I'm going to show you a couple different options to get started building rules. Now, if there is a section like we have here, and you want to apply a rule to that section, you can simply click on the three dots here, and you can add rule to section. Okay. In this case, it's going to bring up our custom rule builder here, but I'm not going to do that just yet. Okay. So when we go to customize, this is how I often will encourage people to get started is you can go into your rules and you can add a new rule. And then you can see that there are lots of pre-built rules here. So if you're feeling overwhelmed or intimidated by rules in general, just take a look through some of these options here. The recommended rules at the top are probably the most approachable ones and the easiest to add into your projects. And so this one here, it says when a task is added to a project, you want to add collaborators. Right. And so the next one is when a task is added to this project, you want to create subtasks. So if you just clicked on that, right, it's going to bring you to the custom rule builder where you can go in and you have this when statement, and then you want it to do something. So in this case, when a task is added to a project, do this, create subtask. And when you click on that, it'll bring you to this little window here. And so you can add in this is your subtask. So you can say review parent task like that. You can then choose to assign it to a specific person, and you can have it be, a relative date based on when the rule will be triggered, a specific date, or, a due date at some point in the future. You can add a time to that. There's a lot of different things you can do here to customize this rule. And like subtasks, you can go in, press the little edit button. You can put additional information in here because if this is a rule that's going to be triggered time and time again, you don't want to have to recreate this and keep inputting information. And so we can set start dates here. We can, enable custom fields, whatever we want to do here as well. We can add subtasks, collaborators, so that all of these people and features that we're adding to the subtask automatically come into the subtask, okay? In the custom rule builder, you can also choose to run the rule on tasks as well as subtasks. And so if there is another option we want to add here. So in this case, if we wanted to, say if a certain field is added and whether that's added to a parent task or the subtask, we want that rule to run. Or if we only want that rule to run on tasks, not the subtasks, then we can make those changes really, really quickly. There are then different permission settings where you can enable only you can edit this rule. So if you want to lock this down so no one else can make changes to this rule, feel free to do that. And then you can allow this rule to be triggered by other rules. So there could be rules that are specific to another project, and maybe you have tasks multi-homed between those two projects. One action or trigger inside of one project can affect the tasks or the custom fields inside of another project. All right. Always make sure to publish your rule and save it as, something very distinctive so that you can come back and you know exactly what it is. And you can make those edits really quickly. Now, I'm going to take a look at our paused rules for a second, because if the custom rule builder feels overwhelming to you, again, there's different options where let's just take a look at one of these here. We have the original standard rule builder where it's a bit more linear, like you can see here. And so this option, if we were to just back out of it, we can add a trigger to the top section here that when a task is moved to a section, or in this case, when a task is moved to a project, and then everything below this arrow will basically be an action, what we want to happen. And so in this case, we've selected, and I'll delete that for a second so you can see what we're doing. Let's go here. We can add an action to say move to a section. So when a task is added, we want to move it to new requests, but maybe you want to move it to scoping, right? That's totally up to you. It all depends on what your specific workflow is. You can set an assignee. So I'm going to change that to myself. Then you can go in and you can set the due dates and make changes, that work for your use case. And so if the custom rule builder, again, is a bit too much for you, you can easily switch it over to the original rule builder. And it makes it so that you simply have a section for all of your triggers and then your actions down below. Now, one thing I do want to point out about this earlier rule builder is this little section right here where it says any of these triggers happen. Okay, so in this case, when either the status is set to progress, right, or the task is moved to the section, these actions will happen. All right, but if we were to switch it over to when all of these happen, we would have to make sure that we set the status, through that custom field to in progress, as well as move the task to the in progress section in order for these to happen. So you want to make sure you selected the right one, either when all of these happen or when any of these happen. So my best practice is always to look at whenever these happen so that you can make sure that whether you're moving it physically or changing the value on a custom field, it's going to take any of these actions into consideration. And so let's just set up one of these rules. I am going to use the custom rule builder here because I want to show you how we can take your rule building to the next level. And so let's go in and we're going to add rules that would basically say when a task is moved to each one of these sections here, okay, that we are going to change. In this case, we're going to change the status of it. And so the status right here, we have a custom field that basically mimics these sections. Now, I'm often asked, why would you need a status custom field when you already have the section custom field? Now, there's a few use cases for this. When it comes to any kind of reporting or dashboards or any rules that you're building across different projects, oftentimes it's simpler and more straightforward to look at a custom field and add that into your workflow versus a section within that project. And so if you want to report on something, the amount of tasks that are in the new requests section or have the new requests status here. Let's say that these were not sections that matched our custom field. You could choose to report out on that information. Or if you had a project that was outside of this one and you wanted to trigger it based on a custom field here, you could select that one as well. And so I like this option, and I'm going to show you what that looks like and my best practice around how you should build this out. When we go into our rule builder, let's start this up here. We're going to call this rule. I'm going to go into our custom rule builder here. We're going to call this rule. I'm going to add my name first. I'm going to call this, let's call this section changes. Now for me, I like when all of the different types of changes you can make or options you have in a project are grouped together in one rule builder. It makes troubleshooting and making changes way simpler rather than having a run-on list of singular rules that you're building. And so if you do have a bunch of singular rules, maybe this will encourage you to change your approach. So I'm going to say this here. So when a task is moved to a section, we're going to start that one off right away. I'm going to add another condition here, or when, and in this case, we're going to look at one of our custom fields and we're going to say, or when status is changed. So this is kind of like the original rule builder where we said, when any of these things happen versus when all of these things happen. So whether the task is moved to this section or the status is changed, we want it to do these types of things. So the next thing I want to do is go to check if. I want to check if that status is new request, okay? And if the status is new request, and in this case, or, the section is new request, right? Like so, I want to be able to move it to that section, new request. And then I'm doing a bit of double work here, or we can change the status to that new request. I can also add additional things here, right? A new request, maybe I want to assign that to a specific person, right? And then I can go back in and I can say, all right, I want to then change the priority to high so that all these new requests receive that high priority. And what's nice about this custom rule builder is instead of having to go and build another rule, we can come back up here and we can select the otherwise if branch, and it gives us another option. So when a task is moved to a section or changed, we want to check if, again, the status is scoping, and maybe we want to move it to the scoping section. And we can keep going, add another branch. We want to check for another status in progress, and we want to move it to the in progress section. All right, so let's publish that rule for a second, and let's just add a task here like so. And I'm going to set that as new request. So we're going to see in the bottom left here, there was a rule that's running. Our little lightning bolts light up like so. And then it's going to move it to the new request section. It's going to assign it to the person that I selected in my rule. It adds the status of new request, and then it changes it to high priority. Okay. So that's one use case. We can also go back in. I'm going to go back and edit that rule because I want to add a branch for when things are done. So I'm going to add an otherwise if in this case. So we can say when the status is completed, all right? And we can say, or a task or subtask completion is set to complete. We want to then move this to a section. So in this case, when a task is moved to a section or it's changed, the status, forgive me, is changed, we're going to check if either the custom field says completed or the task has been marked completed. In both cases, it's going to move it to our completed section, and then we can add in there if we want to, change that status to completed. All right. So I'm going to suggest if you haven't done this yet and you do have that run on list, go back in and see if you can use some of this branching, because with this kind of logic, again, it cleans things up for you. Now, I'm going to give you another use case here. As you can see with the custom fields we have, there's a request type, we have a priority here, and a responsible department. Okay. And so the reason why this comes in handy, you'll also notice right here, we have this little form option. And so I'm going to go into customize and take a look at the form that we've built. All right. And so if we go into creative requests, this is the form builder where we have name, email address, project name. We have the requesting team, which in this case is connected to that department custom field. We have the type of request. So this is a request type, which is also another custom field. We have the priority option selected here, which is also connected to a custom field. And so let's just view this form and try it for ourselves and see what happens. So you can say, yeah, that's my name, Bill. And this is test rule. Requesting team. Events, we want illustrations and graphic design and video. This is high priority. Is there a preferred due date? Yep, need it by next week. I need these things. I can choose to attack something if I want to, but let's just go and submit that. Great. And let's go and view our request.
Feeling a bit lost using Asana? Or maybe you've been at it for a while, but you know your team isn't getting the most out of it. We've got just what you need with our new Asana support packages. Design these services to perfectly fit your team's unique needs, whether you're a small startup or a big enterprise. You'll get access to live training sessions with our Asana experts, a library of ready-to-use Asana templates, and dedicated support tickets whenever you need them. Stop trying to navigate Asana alone. Our tailored support will ensure you and your team make the most out of your Asana investment without the big financial commitment. Click on the link in the description to learn more.
Great. So our task has now come in. It's been sent to this test the new request section. It's been assigned to the person that we assigned for this area. The due date's there. There we go. So and so. All right. But what's nice about this and adding these custom fields, and this is where we can really start to get really creative with rules. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back in to our customize section, I'm going to add a second rule, not for section changes. I'm going to call this one instead, I'm going to call this request type like that. And so we can say when a task is added to a project, okay, not all tasks added to this project, I want to ensure that only form submission tasks are taken into consideration. Okay, so we're going to choose that form. That's the only one we have in this project. We want to check if in this case, the request type is illustration. All right, then I want to go and I'm going to say otherwise if request type is animation. And so you can kind of guess where I'm going. If you do have a lot of these, maybe you want to consolidate them. I'll give us a few options here just so we can kind of get the picture. And then the last one I'll put in is interactive design. Maybe I'll put video with it as well. Okay, so here we have 4 branches. And so we can say when this form is submitted, if illustration is in fact selected, we can change that and assign that to a completely different person. We can then go in and we can set the priority as high, like we did before. And then we can say we're going to move this automatically to scoping. It's high priority. We want to get it to scoping right away. And then when it gets to scoping, we can then go in and we can add additional information or task. We can either create a task, create a subtask, or create an approval. So now we go in, we're going to create an approval. So that will be assigned to whomever we give that access to. Let's say we want to bring in another individual, our marketing manager, who needs to approve this. It'll be based on a specific date on this rule. So let's just say we'll give it, next Tuesday, but we can change that to be a variable based on the trigger dates as well. And so now we can go in and we can tell them what we want to. So I'm going to say, please approve. And rather than typing out the task or saying, hey, please approve the task in parent task, we can actually use variables inside of our rule builder as well. So we see this little plus sign right here to add a variable. And so now I want to go to task. Okay. And then I want to choose, in this case, name, where it's going to display the task name that's been submitted. So whatever the form name is, we're going to change that to name. So please approve task name in parent task, like so. If we wanted to go in, we can add additional information, see parent task or info, something of that nature, and we can close it out. And then we can do the same thing for animation. Animation can be assigned to a completely different person. And then, if animation had their own board, their own production board where they're doing their space, we can then automatically multi-home this task to another project. And so let's see here if I have an example. Let's, I don't know what I have here. Let's do Jira Surface demo. So now we can take this one task submission, we can add it to another board automatically in the to-do section, for example, and then we can go in and we can add a comment like so and say, let's go and add a variable, because we can also add people. You can say either the rule triggerer, or in this case, task creator, or the assignee. So it's going to pick whoever the assignee is, right? And we're going to display their names. So whoever it is that we've added to that section, please look at this new task, or we can say new task has been submitted to your board. Be sure to review it in detail, like so. So variables can come in handy quite a bit. And so with this branching logic, we can do quite a bit here. Let's just add something here so I can close out this rule. Let's say to set description to test. And then this one, I don't know, test 2, just so I can save this rule and publish it. All right, so now let's go and test this rule by submitting a form, and let's see what we come out with. Perfect. So I'm going to go in and put my name in again. We can go project name. This is another test. It's requesting team won't matter. Let's go illustration since that was the branch we built out the most. We can set the priority to medium, right? We know we'll automatically change it to high. And let's set the due date for the 30th. Test data. And let's go submit. There we go. So it's going to come in right there. As we can see, oh, it's making some jumps around. It's come in. We've set it to our assignee. We can see our due date there. It's coming as illustration. And as you can see, it has set a approval task here to approve test in parent task. So in this case, test is the name of the parent task. And it was supposed to be assigned to Leah. I think I have some overlapping tasks here. Maybe I didn't pause all of them. But here we can see parent task for info, and so on. And so there's quite a bit you can do with rules. I would say to you, if you are apprehensive or you're overwhelmed again, start slow, right? If the rule builder is too much for you, you can also click on the plus here and go to the workflow builder. And what this allows you to do is it gets you to kind of walk through step by step how to build these rules. So you just start at the top left, read it. How are tasks being added to this project? Right? We can either, set them manually by clicking the new task button. Here's one way, our creative request form that tasks are added, but we can add another intake source. It can be an app that triggers a task being added. We can create a task template, or we can create another form. So in this case, we have our creative requests form here already. And then we can go in and there are two triggers, that are making this happen. So currently the new request rule is running and then section changes is running, but we can add another trigger. So if I wanted to, I could, remove these, or if these didn't exist, I could, just start by adding a trigger which walks you through when a custom field is identified, what you want to do, when a task is added to the project, when the due date is approaching, or a custom trigger. Right. And then down here, you can add your various actions. And so you can go through and do that for your different sections to make sure that you're considering all of the rule changes that you want to apply to each of those sections. And what's nice as well is at the portfolio level, you can go in and you can do this for your portfolios as well. And so if you were on the Enterprise Plus plan, let's just do a test portfolio. We can go to that portfolio. And let's just add a project. We can go in and add that content and creative requests. Okay. We can then go to customize and we can add rules that apply to custom fields that we add to the portfolio. And so for us at Cirface, when we have a project that is archived or completed that we've done for a customer, we automatically move it from our current client portfolio to our archive project portfolio so that we can view all that historical information. And so, again, start small, but there's so much you can do with rules. If you have any questions and you need some guidance, book a call. I'd love to walk you through how we can help you and your team get the most out of your Asana investment by automating your workflows. So if you found this helpful, please let me know in the comments. If you have any questions, leave it below as well, or share this video with someone who you think would find it helpful. But as always, thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.